Welcome to Emerging Franchise Brands, the podcast that introduces you to the visionary founders of America's fastest growing franchise opportunities. We'll also hear from industry pros as they share insights on what it really takes to achieve the elusive milestone of 100 plus locations. I am your host, Frank Fumey, founder of I9 Sports, and my 20-year journey from inception to acquisition has given me a unique perspective on how to succeed in franchising. Join me as we welcome today's guest. Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Emerging Franchise Brands podcast. On today's show, I have the founder of Hydrate IV Bar, Katie Gillberg. Katie, hello. How are you?
I'm doing well. Thank you so much for having me on.
Great to see you again. I know we met at the IFA back in February, earlier in the year. So it's great to catch up again.
Yeah, you as well. That was such a fun event and always a big success. I love meeting new faces and happy to run into you there.
Well, thank you. And it was great having you on. And as soon as I heard, I don't know if you remember this, but as soon as I heard you own and have a franchise of hydration of an IV bar, I got so excited because I am totally into IV therapy.
And I remember at the event, I said, you look very hydrated. You must,
That's right.
You must take vitamin C. I'm proud of you. So yes, I especially love talking about my business with people that understand the services.
Well, look, I'm a big fan of it because, I've done a lot of traveling over time, especially like a lot of business travel. And years ago, I would get sick often when I would come back. And I found, I don't want to call it a magic bullet, but I've got to say that ever since I get my IV before I do a long business travel, I come back and knock on wood, I haven't gotten sick since. I don't care if it's placebo, if it's in my head or what, but I'm telling you, it works. And well, you saw it. I was hydrated.
I love it. I love it. No, it's so important. I mean, so many people, I think we're used to going and kind of seeking medical care or self-care when we're already ill or run down. And so the more you can do it preventatively, we know when we're traveling, we're not eating as well. We're under stress. We're probably eating and, drinking poor and not sleeping and exercising, all the things. So it's super easy for your body to get off balance. So I'm very proud of you for promoting to stay on top of it and do it ahead of time.
Well, thank you. Katie, why don't we share with the audience how this originated? So interesting, you founded the company in 2016. So bring me to the very beginning. What made you start this company?
Absolutely. Hydrate IV Bar is the first business that I've started. At the time, it's still a passion project, but it truly was a passion project. I had no idea then that I would have 4 corporate spas or begin franchising. It wasn't even on my radar. Love that I'm here, but, learning something new every single day. So my general background, born and raised in Denver, I danced my whole life. I was in different sports and athletics, went to Arizona State for college and I was on their cheer and dance team. And then I moved back to Denver with a business degree and started working in medical sales. So that was my foot in the door in the medical industry. My, passion, I've always been very passionate about functional medicine, alternative medicine, everything, mind, body, soul. And, when I was back in Denver, this is 2011, 2012, I tried out for the Denver Broncos cheerleader team and made it.
Nice.
And so while I was doing medical sales, I was also a cheerleader for the Broncos. And it was at that time that kind of talk about burning the candle at both ends. They were 2 jobs that I loved, but, hard on body and mind and all the things. And so that was kind of the gateway, what led me into not only wanting to start my own business, but seeing this opportunity in Denver.
So were you like a regular customer of IV therapy? Because there wasn't not a whole lot of places around, at least probably back then. I know it's obviously a lot more common now, but is this something that you regularly did?
I wanted to do, and I couldn't find, it just wasn't as accessible as it is today. And to your point, 8 years ago, people, when we opened our doors, they were looking at me like, what, I remember my landlords like, what are you doing? And thank goodness they trusted me. But now much more common and well known. And, we have a lot more competition, but it's great. It's educating people that These services are available. They can be done in extremely, safe facilities with experienced and trustworthy medical professionals. So you don't have to be in a hospital or, an urgent care setting to receive these services. And that was our goal. I saw the football players, I saw professional athletes doing it. At this time, there were brands that were, you either had your traditional doctor's office, or it, there was just starting to have practitioners that were focusing on hangovers and mobile.
Right.
And that was really put on the map from Vegas and Miami and all these big cities. And I saw an opportunity to create a wellness brand that had a membership model that focused on preventative wellness. And, how do we not only do this to kind of, the ill to feel baseline, but I wanted people to, that were baseline to really come in and thrive. And so that's how it was born.
Wow. So you had this professional career in medical sales and, cheer for the Denver Broncos, but like you said, you had never owned a business before. So when you had this idea, first of all, what did your friends and family say? Katie, are you out of your mind? Is that one of the things you heard?
Totally. I mean, let me preface it by saying my parents are very proud now.
Oh, yeah.
But I remember my dad thinking, well, first of all, I was in my 20s. I'm fortunate that I had a really strong career, and I was able to keep my job for the first 2 years that I operated Hydrate. I'm sure my former employer is not, thrilled hearing this now, but I was in a sales position. My sales continued to grow. I hit quotas. My accounts were happy. And so as far as they knew, I was doing a good job, and I was doing a good job, but I was, on that salary, keeping that income while I was building my business. And, I'm fortunate for the timing of that. I was also in my late 20s, so I had a lot more energy and maybe just being a little naive as well. I remember my parents, my dad saying, what are you going to do if this doesn't work? And I said, I don't have kids at the time. I don't have a mortgage. You guys have a really comfortable basement. I'll move back in with you and I'll get another job. And that truly was my worst case scenario. And so I recognize how fortunate I was at that time to be able to take really big risks, because I talk to people all the time, and many people have much better ideas than I did, but I didn't, get overwhelmed by the what ifs. Someone, said to me, a lot of people get stuck in what if it doesn't work? And if you just pivot that and say, what if it does?
Right.
What if this does work? And so I just went for it.
That's amazing. What specialty were you in medical sales?
Pain management.
Okay.
Which is specialty. It's absolute need. But it was depressing and hard. You're seeing people that are in pain all day. There's a lot of narcotics, and it's just a really hard quality of life. And it's this vicious circle that I was kind of seeing every single day. And so it was just heavy, and it wasn't aligning kind of with my personal values. So I switched out of that, and it was wonderful that, I was working for a compounding pharmacy. I knew doctors, I knew nurses, and I had a lot of the pieces of the puzzle. I have a business degree. I thought, I'm going to run every aspect of business. Also, being naive in my 20s,
Right.
My business plan was, I knew my fixed costs. I knew I needed to pay a doctor and a nurse. I knew I needed to buy supplies, but everything else I would do our marketing, and I would do our accounting, and I would run payroll, and I would work the front desk 7 days a week for the rest of my life. And I was so pumped to do that.
Right.
Obviously not sustainable forever. And I definitely came to a point where I was crashing.
Well, you and I have more in common than maybe than My background is also in medical sales. I was in
Really?
Yeah. So when I got out of college, I was in cardiovascular sales. So I was in the OR a lot, and then I moved to orthopedic sales. And I also started my first business while working in medical sales, unbeknownst to my employer. And mine was running my softball league in New York. So I was burning the candle also at both ends. And when I went to my parents, or specifically when I went to my dad to tell him that I wanted to quit my medical sales job, and he was in the medical field, he was in the clinical side though. And when I told him that I wanted to quit my medical sales job to run my softball league as my career, he thought I was beyond insane. And he, in fact, tried to get my aunt and uncle to talk me out of it, try to talk some sense into me, I believe was the actual quote. But look, what we both had in common is that what we were doing in our life was not in alignment with how we saw our future. We also both saw of what was possible, and we focused on more of what if this does work as opposed to what if this doesn't work. And we were both willing to do whatever it took to make it work. I bring this up because there's other people that are in the audience that are watching this or listening to this that are thinking, how can I possibly do this? My friends and family, they care about me. And they're telling me they're looking out for me. And I think that's another important point, Katie, is that whether it was, my dad, your dad, or anybody's friends or family tell them to not do something, it's not because they don't believe in us. It's because they don't see it for themselves. And if they don't see it for themselves, then they don't have the same vision that we have. And our parents, our families, they care about us. They don't want us to fail. And that's really what it comes down
Absolutely.
to. Yeah.
Absolutely. No, thank you for sharing that. I tell people all the time too. I mean, medical sales will help you build some thick skin and be resilient. And no, but even now with our franchise owners, when we look at our development and our growth, we're growing a lot slower than other brands, but we're super intentional with who we're bringing on. And, our big play, I would rather be here to support less owners that have multiple units and help them grow over the years rather than 100 individuals that are popcorned all over the country. And with our owners, we dig into it. If you're only looking at this opportunity because financially it looks pretty, that's not going to help you get through the ups and the downs. And you and I both, we took big risks. We had that kind of drive inside of us. But it's not easy. It's very uncomfortable.
Very.
And there's still days. I mean, I have friends, it's like the Instagram reel, right? You see my Instagram and it's always rainbows and butterflies and smiling. And I'm fortunate that our team really is incredible. And I'm so grateful for that because that's what gets me through the hard times. But it's every day there's, super high highs and super low lows. And I still think, the decisions I made, am I making it harder than harder than it needs to be? Or is this getting bigger than I question it all the time, but, you have to have that passion to help you get through.
You do, because if you're not passionate about it, it doesn't get you through the bad weeks or the bad months or the bad years. You have to love what you do. I know this, you've seen this, and we've read about this all the time. People say that having passion for your business is overrated and it's BS of following your passion. And I'm sorry, but you and I are both living examples of we succeeded because we had passion first. But we weren't stupid. We made sure, though, that we put actual business principles behind our passion. It wasn't just we love what we do and we're just going to hope it all works out. No, like you said, you worked your butt off and you were doing two jobs at the same time, but you had so much. I would say, thank goodness you and I both did this in our 20s because you have so much gas in the tank. And you mentioned you said the word naive twice. I caught it.
Oh,
and
I need to practice. Practicing your self-talk is super important too. So thank you for pointing that out.
It was brilliant though. No, it was brilliant because we were, both of us, I keep saying both, truly everything you're saying resonates with my life.
Oh, I love that.
Being naive starting out actually is to our benefit because if you knew all the pain that you were going to endure before you did it, would you really do it? No, probably not.
Right.
So it actually helps when we start out being naive because we don't know what we don't know and we just go, go, go. That's why so many people fail at doing a second business because they remember all of the pain of the first business and like, I don't want to relive this all over again. I remember how much it took and how hard it took, all those hours. And you start questioning whether you have the same energy and stuff. So no, I think, Katie, to your benefit, this is what helps you also relate to your franchisees. Because I imagine that many of your franchise owners, and you have 10 franchises open, you have another 12 that are going to be open. You got 4 company locations, but I imagine a lot of your franchisees are first-time business owners.
Nearly all of them. Right now in our system, most of the owners are started as friends, family, clients, former employees.
Okay.
So we are still very much a big family. And there are pros and cons. I mean, there are so many benefits to the fact that we had these relationships ahead of time. And how do you set boundaries and kind of navigate this new, kind of the new roles and responsibilities and setting the expectations. In addition, many of our owner groups are husband wife partnerships.
Okay.
And that's just I don't care who you are or how strong your marriage is, it can be challenging. And so we're very much all in it together.
Right.
But a lot of what I talk to my team about, a lot of what I'm working right now is continuing to build my team and hiring for people who are smarter than me or more experienced than me,
Great.
especially in the franchising space. And that's where, it's important for me to be authentic and vulnerable. We are emerging. We are new to this space.
Mm-hmm.
We need help. Absolutely. Do I know my culture and my brand? And, is the passion there? Absolutely. But, we need to figure out how to kind of navigate and balance both. And so with our owners, a lot of what I focus on with them outside of sales and ops and compliance and all of that is just checking in on, like, how is your well-being? Is your
Yeah.
cup full? What are you doing for yourself? Because it all starts at the top. And I ask them to hold me accountable as well. I'm a new mother. Since I began franchising, I got married. I have a 2-year-old daughter.
Congrats.
I'm pregnant again with a little boy on the
Oh,
way. And so even for me, I have this career in this business that is growing and I love it and it deserves so much of my attention.
mm-hmm.
And I'm growing my family. So, it starts with me and then trickles down to those owners and then how are they managing their teams? And ultimately, culture is huge for us. And
Mm-hmm.
I really pride our team and the people that we hire. And I really think that's why we've been successful is our clients, people feel energy and they're coming to us for so much more than just the IV. They love the IV. It makes them feel better. We know there are benefits,
Mm-hmm.
but just the experience of being in our environments with our people, that those are our like main differentiators in my opinion.
Sure. I just think when you first started this Hydrate IV bar, you thought you were getting into the IV business because there was this need and there was this gap where there wasn't enough places out there. Little did you know that you are really in the business of obviously making people successful and profitable and all that, but you are helping the wellness of your franchise owners as well, not just the customers. You've stumbled on it that you're really more about the wellness of your entire universe, right?
Absolutely. Yeah.
And
And I'm so fortunate that you're right. It has snowballed into something so much bigger. And I think this goes back to just aligning with your passion because 8 years later, here we are. And if I'm having a hard day, what makes me feel better is I love doing podcasts. I love talking about the business. It does fill my cup because it just makes me so proud and energized. But other times I get away from my computer, get inside my spa and just sit there, get a service myself, kick my feet up, see the people coming in and out, the smiles. And, our nurses, these are incredibly, experienced professional nurses, most of which work in the emergency rooms or
Mhm.
ICU. I have some nurses who work, flight for life on helicopters. For them to be able to pivot and have an opportunity to still use their skill sets in a completely different environment where the clients are, showing so much gratitude, and it's
Right.
almost always just smiles and feel good. And so they're so grateful for the opportunity too. And I had no idea how gratifying that would be.
Sure. It's almost like, well, the nurses are in the wellness medicine space instead of sick medicine space and being
Yeah.
reactive, right? In many cases.
Yeah.
Katie, let's go back to when you first opened your company on location. How many did you have before you franchised?
I had four.
You had all four before you franchised.
Yes.
Oh, okay.
And again, this was I hadn't planned this out. This wasn't on the 5-year plan. It's just how, I listened to the universe, and this is how we, grew. But I self-funded the first location, which 8 years ago, costs were a lot less. We were
Sure.
super scrappy. My, we were doing all the construction ourselves and painting. And I mean, we were doing everything ourselves, but I was able to open a lot more affordably than, maybe I would today. So self-funded with no cash reserve. This was like open and pray that people would start coming in, because
Well,
I didn't
yeah,
I didn't know what else.
again, another thing we have in common on that.
Yeah.
Yes, I went through that too.
So
Boy, that's a stressful way of doing business, but yeah,
totally. We're more conservative now. We set, some
sure.
realistic expectations and boundaries, but self-funded the first. And then every location that that I owned myself, I would wait till one was profitable. And then I would take those profits and dump it into a new market and a new location. And so I opened one in 2016, one in 2017, two in 2019.
Hmm.
And then at that time, I had four. We were in four different markets, had, approximately 40 employees. And I remember telling my accountants at that time, we've got it. It's like copy and paste now. Like, I know what we're doing. And
Right,
they would kind of giggle and say, well, it still costs money. And,
right.
put the healthy fear back in my head. And then just thought, one, I believe in this. I've seen it work in multiple, cities. I have an amazing team that's supporting it. I'm definitely limited to my, operational support, my capital, just my bandwidth. And so that's when franchising just looked like the really obvious solution.
Hmm.
Ultimately, our goal was, how do we get these services in front of as many people? How do we expand outside of Colorado? And especially because of the industry we're in, every state, the medical law is very different. And so having medical professionals, doctors, looking at what that ownership looks like in different states, it really, franchising was a really good option for us. So beginning of 2020, hired the team, the consultants, the attorneys, and we started building out our franchise disclosure document.
Wow. You said all four company locations were in different markets. Where are they all located?
I say not two different markets.
Okay.
So three are in Denver,
Okay.
but different kind of areas of Denver, and one
Sure.
is in Boulder.
Oh, okay. All right, cool. All right. So
Yeah.
you ultimately decide you're going to franchise this concept and you bootstrap it, I assume, from the profit of.
Bootstrap it. I brought on two partners. So the three of us, we, and still today, it's still self-funded. And our consultants that helped us originally, now they're our franchisees, but they were clients of ours. So this is another kind of full circle moment, but clients of ours that I had great relationships with, they were experienced in franchising and kept telling me, over the years, Katie, this is a great concept. We really think you should franchise. And
Hmm.
I would say, okay, and kind of brush them off. And finally, it came the time, especially with the opportunity to have these partners, that I had a lot of the pieces. I felt supported. I felt very comfortable with where our corporate spas were. And I said, let's do it. That was January of 2020. Little did I know that the pandemic was right around the corner.
Right.
I was actually getting ready to open my fifth spa. And the fifth spa was opening the week we went into quarantine. It was a different concept, a different model. It was a large wellness space that
Hmm.
housed about 40 different practitioners all under one roof. So we had kind of one little cubby. So it was a different business model that we were trying out. A lot of great intentions behind it from the whole community. Unfortunately, horrible timing to try and do, big community group.
Right.
And so that concept we kind of opened. It was always at 50% capacity. A year later, we ended up closing it, pulling out completely. And so, it hasn't always been huge successes. That was the concept that didn't work. And I look at our owners now and I said, well, I'm grateful that I did
Yeah.
that mistake and learned from it. And now, I can use myself as an example. But in March, I had my 4 spas closed down for about 6 weeks, and we still didn't really know. There was a lot of uncertainty, and it was terrifying. I thought, how the heck am I supposed to be motivated and passionate and excited about sharing this business model with other
Right.
people? I don't even know if I'm going to open my doors and make it this year. At the end of the day, I thought, I'm so far in it. We're just pushing through. I cannot accept anything otherwise.
Right.
And so the silver lining was the 6 weeks that we were not in our spa, I had about 8 managers who I had on payroll. I wanted to keep paying. And I said, well, since we can't work in the spa and service clients, you're going to help me redo our training manuals and operations and everything. And we're just going to focus on franchising and get this FDD put together. And all of a sudden, we had all of this time that we never had before. And we worked all day, every day on Zoom like this. And I'm so proud of my team for we rallied and we did it. And we kept looking forward, and everything started kind of falling back in place. As soon as we reopened, because we rebounded so strong, so much
Hmm.
stronger than I was even expecting. I mean, we had members who were coming in, just clients in general. We had people coming in more frequently. They were spending more money than they used to. There was this huge, light now on wellness and what
Right.
you can do to take control of your wealth or health. And so once we reopened, it was kind of, sky's the limit, and we were ready to file our FDD. And so there we go. It all worked out. It was just really scary.
Yeah, it was really scary. But look at the silver lining in COVID is you used your resources and you were resourceful by getting your managers together and making the best of a bad situation.
Yeah.
And that wouldn't have happened otherwise. I mean, when would you guys have ever said, okay, we're going to take time out of our already busy day and figure out this franchise thing and figure out the training and support? Most of the
Yeah.
time, as a new franchise company, we'll hire a consultant to do the operations manual, and you're leaning on one or two people and they're just providing information. But you guys were able to like hunker down and do nothing but that. And that's what made
Yeah.
it so good, I bet.
Well, and no one knows your business like you do. And
Right.
we pulled back all the layers and tried to look at everything with fresh eyes. And we thought, well, this is the opportunity to revamp our spas.
Mm-hmm.
So what are we in the habit of doing that isn't efficient? Or, I mean, we questioned everything that we were doing, everything from inventory to marketing to operations to who we had on our team. Are these the right people? I mean, this was our opportunity
Mm-hmm.
to have a fresh start and reopen. And so, I was very fortunate, because I think that's also why our corporate spas did so well rebounding, is because we made changes. I
Right.
mean, we it was like this new and improved. We were so happy to kind of show off our new spa that we had been working so hard on. And it just went back to a lot of operational efficiencies, certainly looking at, our budgets and expenses. And
Mm-hmm.
we thought, profitability is super important. We know revenue is cut significantly. So what else, how else are we going to adjust
Right.
our bottom line? And so we just got we looked at things in a really smart, way.
Yeah, you were open to everything. You guys were open-minded to reinventing yourself. So, all right, we're in the throes of COVID. You have the operations manual done and everything. FDD is done. When do you start officially kicking off franchising? Who's selling franchises for you at this point? Like, bring me to when is this happening?
My partners and I were selling franchises. We actually didn't hire like a formal franchise development manager or department
Sure.
until about 3 years in,
Okay.
which again was one of those decisions where we were trying to be very cost effective, and I wanted to so be in the know because I was still learning, and so every single lead that was coming in I was getting on the phone with. Then we thought, this is, as much as I mean, I was so excited. It was this new opportunity,
Of
and I was
course.
like so grateful that people would, like, I was honored that people were considering this opportunity.
Right.
Then we realized, just knowing more about franchising, there's so many different layers and so many different kind of qualifiers that you need to put in place, not only for the franchisee but for the franchisor. And so we learn to systemize a lot more and be, more transparent with the information up front, whether it's on our website. But in the beginning, it was like, hey, we're franchising, just get on the phone with Katie, and we're not going to tell you anything until then.
Sure.
And I had some really amazing conversations, and I had some conversations that were, obviously not going to go anywhere. So I was selling them. Our very first franchise that opened were the same clients of ours that helped us consult and build the franchise. And they now own 4 units within our system,
Great.
one in Colorado, 3 in Texas. Our second owner was a partner group of 3, one of which is family, and that was our Arizona team. And they have 3 of 6 open, and they're doing phenomenally well. And so this was, I mean, our first few, it was, I mean, who is in our circle that we can really make sure. Even in the beginning, I was still, I don't want to say I wasn't confident, but I knew what I did well and what my team did well.
Right.
And now it's, how do I mean, it was a lot of pressure that I felt, and I still put on myself. These are big decisions and big financial commitments that people are trusting us with. And probably a little to a fault, I do hold that so personally. But ultimately, I want all of our franchise owners to be
Of
successful. So we
course.
take it very seriously. And so in the beginning, it was like, oh gosh, like, do we, are we sure we're going to know how to support you? Do we have the right tech in place? Is our team big enough to support? And that's why we just, we were very slow kind of moving in the beginning, just to kind of have all hands. And now, I mean, we kicked off this year. We have an amazing development team. We're getting into the portals and all these, kind of
Hmm.
spreading our wings a little bit. And this is the first time that we're really, really ready to expand. We feel like we have a really strong infrastructure, and the owners that we have. We just had our owner summit this past week in Arizona.
Oh, congrats.
And thank you, thank you, thank you. And it's incredible to see how happy they are and how motivated and how forward thinking they are.
Hmm.
And so we're just really excited to now, bring more people into the mix.
Well, you actually answered my next question. That was going to be like, how did you know when like you could start growing faster? But you said it. You had the infrastructure in place. You had the team in place, and you have not made the mistake that a lot of franchisors make and feel like they have to, have 100 franchises in 2 years and all that crazy nonsense. It's not about how many locations we open. It's how many can I support where I am
Right.
today, right? So, what about your ideal franchise owner? So, you said earlier that most of you, or all of your franchisees, or most are, like a wife and husband team. Who is your ideal franchise owner?
Yeah. So many of our franchisees are in the medical field.
Hmm.
So we have many nurses, we have a couple pharmacists. So just early on, in their career, because they were passionate about helping others. And even our franchise owners that are not medical professionals, they still have this underlying, they're nurturing, they're kind, they're passionate about wellness themselves. They practice, these same modalities. They understand community. Community is one of our values. So these are, they're all just kind, nurturing. And I would say business, I don't want to say it comes second because profitability is super important for all of us and we're
Sure.
all driven, motivated by money and sales. But I would say really the service, wellness, community, nurturing their teams, building teams is like the priority or kind of the values that most of our owners have.
Mhm.
And then it's maybe some more of the coachable kind of business operational skills.
And with some of the other locations that you have, where you have multi-unit franchise operators, obviously they can't be in all the places at once. So there is a manager operated model now.
Absolutely. Yeah, we have some owners who this is their, full time, this is their career, this is their, they are all in. And then we have
Mhm.
others that are partnerships, and maybe one is more the operator that's in the spa with the teams and their clients, and the others are behind the scenes helping in other, areas. And we're definitely open to both. I do believe because we are a service-based business, it's such a personal service.
Mhm.
It's a medical service. You're earning someone's trust. Because of that, I highly recommend that and encourage that at least one of the owners is an operator. But we definitely have some fluidity between the
Okay.
owner groups.
What's the investment range of the franchise?
Yeah, about 250 to 450,000.
Mhm.
So especially compared to, some other industries, our build out is, it's a lower barrier of entry. We
Sure.
don't have this big expensive equipment. Our spaces, our footprint's only about 1,000 square feet. So finding retail, you can get the construction. We hope to open a spa within 6 months. And, we work towards you being profitable your first year.
Nice. And what about training? Is training in Denver?
In Denver as well as on site in your spot or your market. So first we have teams come in, both the business operational team and then the medical team. So one of the most important hires, you absolutely need a medical director,
Mhm.
but we have a fabulous network and partners that can help with that. And one of the most important roles in our business is the lead nurse. So we wait till you have a lead nurse and a GM or at least the owner operator. They come out and there's classroom training, there's online training, and then they work in our spas. So we have them working our front desk and, they're providing services. And so they do a full week in our spas. We make sure they feel comfortable. This is their opportunity to learn, absorb so that they can turn around, go to their home spas and start building out their teams. Once we get closer to the soft opening, then our team comes out, both our medical team as well as the franchise business coaches and business team, and we help with setting up the spas, ordering the inventory, marketing events, everything kind of on the grounds, get them up. And then our team comes out for the grand opening as well, and we do a ribbon cutting and a big celebration and party, and it's so much fun.
I bet that's got to be the most fun, is seeing that baby born.
It is. And just how much pride everyone has. That was one of my biggest fears, when I started franchising, or one reason why I was delaying franchising is I thought no one is going to love this as much as I do. This is my baby and I was so protective. And as soon as I, kind of wrapped my head around that, I guess as soon as I learned to share, but
Yes.
seeing these owners, they do love it as much as I do. They take so much pride in it. They take it very seriously. This is their baby now, and that is so incredibly rewarding.
Katie, that's when you really have something special.
Oh, thank
You
you.
saw beyond you, that you shared the love with others. And
Yeah,
once you saw that other people can really love it as much as you do, that's when you're really onto something. So congratulations. That's fantastic.
thank you. Thank you so much.
That's great. Let's see. So moving forward, I want to go back to something you mentioned earlier, that there are some laws, or I should say there are states where the laws vary. So are there some states, just want to share with the audience, are there some states that you are focusing in, or states that you are not going into?
Yes. So not only does franchise law vary in different states, but the corporate practice of medicine varies in states as well. So that really dictates who can own a practice like ours, who can employ doctors, who can employ nurses. There's some states, for instance, who want the franchisee to be 100% owned by a doctor. So not to say that, that's a state that we wouldn't go into, but it obviously limits who the franchise owner could be in the
Sure.
leagues that we speak to. So we love networking within the medical community. We do have doctors who are some of our owners. We have nurses who are some of our owners. So that's actually, we love that, but I think maybe a little bit, atypical compared to the franchise community. Some states that we are probably hard nosed right now, California, I think.
What a shock, by
Every
the way.
Yeah, I mean, and I love it. Southern, San Diego and Southern California,
Of
the
course.
services. You'll love this, but unfortunately, the more we just learned too. There's just so many other barriers of entry that it's not a never, but it's not a right now.
Uh-huh.
States that we're super excited about. Obviously, we're in Colorado, Arizona, Texas, Utah. We've kind of decided to grow kind of around our main hub. It's really neat because we have a membership model. And so if you're a member at any one spa, you can use your membership at the other spas. And we already are seeing a lot of clients that travel between Dallas and
Wow.
Scottsdale and Denver, Salt Lake City, Park City. So we definitely are interested in building out more within, those states are not sold out. Idaho, we would love to go kind of southeast. I mean, Florida, Carolinas, Atlanta would be fantastic. So Nashville, we definitely have kind of our top 10
Mhm.
on our website, hydrateivbar.com. You can see a map of our like hot markets that we really have our eye on. And we've found some phenomenal retail space
Uh-huh.
that we're just waiting for the perfect owner. But I mean, ultimately, there's no reason why we wouldn't go coast to coast.
Sure. So there's certain little events that we get so excited about when they happen. And one that you touched on was near and dear to my heart. The first time I had a customer who played in our sports league and they moved and seeked out a league in a different city where they moved to, I felt like we arrived. And I bet, how
Absolutely.
amazing was it when you had your first like Hydrate IV bar customer where you saw that they used the membership in another city location? Like that's like the coolest thing, isn't
It's
it?
so cool. It's so cool. I mean, I'll be at one of my spas and they'll say, "Oh, I was just in Arcadia and I met their team and they're so wonderful." And they'll go on and on. And it's
Right.
like, yeah, I'm so proud. And even I tell, my team, my corporate teammates that have only worked in our corporate spas, I encourage them when you are in any of these other cities, you better stop in, go say
Right.
hi to them because there's like these micro teams that are just like us in other markets. And I'm like, if we were all together, we would all be friends.
Oh,
But, everyone's kind of spread out everywhere. But it's really, really cool to see
yeah.
how much it's grown.
See, when the brand gets really, really big, I realize this is, it becomes, you assume that this is going to happen and it's really no big deal. But as from a founder to founder, the first time something like that happens, it's such a significant moment. It's like a moon
Yeah,
landing moment, right? That
totally.
somebody's caring about you that much that they look, they seek you out and you can't believe that your baby is growing. It's,
Totally.
yeah, yeah. So Katie, like what's your vision for the company? Is this a legacy business for you? Do you see you doing this for the foreseeable future, or are you going to sell to private equity, or kind of where do you want to take this?
Yeah, it's funny when I first started a business, people would say, "What's your 5-year plan?" And it's very important to plan for the future and have ideas. But this was never something that, in my mind, I was growing this to sell.
Yeah.
If, the right opportunity came up, I definitely think there are benefits with even just, even just partnerships. I certainly don't ever want to be the one or have my team be the ones that are holding us back. So I think, I'm still for the foreseeable future, I'm still so passionate about this, and it fills my cup so much, and it fits really well with my life that, I don't see why I wouldn't keep riding this wave as long as I can. With that said, this industry is evolving and changing so much, and I think innovation is so important. So if that means joining forces in some capacity, whether that's private equity or, there's other groups that kind of have a lot of different brands under the wellness space. And so if they can bring us to a level that isn't possible on our own, I'm definitely open to that, especially just to stay ahead of the curve with innovation. So maybe that's bringing on additional service lines, additional products. There's opportunities like lab testing and so we're kind of, I feel like we're scratching one piece of the puzzle. I mean, we're just barely scratching the surface. And there are so many opportunities that we could take this. And so not pigeonholing anything right now. I think if you told me today, what does the next 5 years look like? It'll probably change. It'll always be, we'll see in 5 years, we'll see in 5 years. So we have the energy and the team and we're just really loving it.
Great. Glad to hear that. Katie, if someone was interested in learning more about the franchise opportunity, where would they go?
Yeah, please visit our website, hydrateivbar.com. You can see our corporate spas or all the locations that are open, get a really good sense of our menu, the services. There's a lot of pictures, a lot of smiling faces. It catches people off guard. We'll get comments every now and then of, why does everyone look so happy here? Because you're getting an IV or you're getting injections, and people, I think we're kind of conditioned to think that this is so scary, but it really is something that makes you feel good.
Yes.
So our website is a great place. Also social media. Our Instagram is hydrate_IV bar. And again, you can just get a sense of our people, our culture, our community, our clients, why they keep coming back to us, and why, what our owners love about us.
Well, I know that, of course, you're in the feel-good business. And at the same time, when it comes to franchising, you are protective of bringing on the right people. When you used to talk to and everyone who would talk to you about buying a franchise. No, like realistically, what is when somebody's doing their due diligence, and I know you're not trying to talk people into becoming a franchise owner, what's some of the things that you really want them to do when they're doing their research?
Yeah, I mean, I want them, one, is this something that they would ever do for themselves? If this is something that they just, that they don't believe in, I think you're going to have a really hard time convincing your team and your clients that this is something that they should be doing. So, is this something that aligns with your values? Is this a service that you would, bring into your regular routine? Can your community support it? I mean, there are some markets that just truly based on population or income or just, different demographics, it may not support it.
Sure.
And, definitely doing a competitive analysis. We look at a lot of our other kind of co-tenants and, we're looking for communities that have other, wellness concepts. These are, our clients understand the value of eating organic produce. They're going to pay more to do so. They really are valuing what they're putting into their body and kind of the small habits that they're taking control of every day for their wellness. So it's a lot of going back to, your values and then the community and the market that you're in and does all of that align? And then the business itself, I mean, it's in comparison, it's pretty low startup. You can open pretty darn quickly and you don't have this huge team that you have to manage. You have one spa coordinator that works the front, that's the face and, and helps the nurse. And then you have one nurse that's 1 to 2 nurses that are working each day. You're open 7 days a week, but it's a smaller team that you can manage. And that's, really attractive to a lot of people.
Yeah. Well, you have highly skilled employees and you know exactly where the pool is on where to find them.
Yes. And I mean, right now there are so many incredible nurses who are just, craving opportunities like this.
Sure.
They can absolutely work here in conjunction with a hospital setting. But really, in the last few years, I mean, we have an influx of nurse resumes that are wanting, these positions. And so that's really exciting as well.
Okay, so I always finish my podcast with the tip jar because the franchise community is so generous with providing information, and you've done just that. But look, if I was a entrepreneur and I was aspiring to get into franchising, what's maybe a piece of advice you'd give me before I franchise my company?
Ooh, before you franchise your company, you're putting me on the spot. This is a hard one. Now, you're obviously, when you decide to franchise, you are scaling your business and growing your business in a way that's truly, the sky's the limit. And so I think you really just have to look back at yourself and say, are you at a good place where you can take this business to the next level? And so if you are not ready to share your special sauce, if you're not ready to build a team, if you're not ready to invest in technology, I mean, committing to franchise, in my opinion, is really, you need to be open-minded to evolving and innovating and changing to an extent. And so if you just think, that's going to be hard nosed for you, then I would question going into it, to start with.
Good for you. I just want to add one more thing. You've done so many things right. And the one thing that it cannot be overstated that I hope our audience hears is that you had 4 company-owned locations. You were cash flowing. You had your act together before you franchised. Yes. And that is, kind of bring this full circle to the beginning of our conversation. You did a lot of things right, but that in itself, Katie, was brilliant. And I congratulate you, and I wish you all the best. Hydrate IV Bar. Hope it becomes a brand we see everywhere from coast to coast. And certainly, if you get to come to Tampa, I would certainly be a client.
I mean, I'm manifesting it. So
all right. Sounds great.
We'll see you soon.
Well, Katie, thanks so much for being on the show. I appreciate it. It was great seeing you again.
Thank you. I so appreciate it. That was very fun, and I appreciate you sharing my business and my story.
Thank you for tuning into the Emerging Franchise Brands podcast. For additional insights, guest applications, and to stay connected, visit us at efbpodcast.com. The Emerging Franchise Brands podcast is for entertainment purposes only, and the views expressed do not necessarily represent those of Emerging Franchise Brands, its host Frank Fumey, or Emerging Franchise Group LLC. Any discussed franchise or investment opportunity requires thorough investigation, obtaining proper disclosure documents, and expert consultation before making any investment decisions. The podcast and its host do not offer professional advice or endorsements, and they hold no responsibility for actions, representations, accuracy, or consequential damages related to the podcast content.